council to set the appropriate compensation for city officials, and observed that, quote, if there's an abuse of legislative power, the ballot box continues to be the avenue of recourse for aggrieved citizens, close quote. So I believe our reading, and I continued at the time of when we looked at this for the standing committee, as well as my opinion at this juncture, is you have some language in the Constitution which has been reviewed by the state and interpreted by the state Supreme Court, not just by me and my colleague, but by the state Supreme Court, which has found interim increases in salaries for elected officials to be allowable, if done properly.
So Nick, would that have to be under ordinance then? Would we have to pass an ordinance to be in compliance with the case you just cited?
If the,
Yeah, I know, they specifically stated.
Yeah, I have to. I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm going to read, this is an Office of Legislative Research report. That is the nonpartisan group of attorneys who sit on the fifth floor of the Capitol, who, when asked a question by a state legislator, will research and explain the meaning of the laws. This one is called The History of the Constitutional Limit on Salary Increases for Elected Municipal Officials. And it gives the history, and it discusses the case you just cited, Scalo versus Mendocini, which was in 1979. And then it goes on to say, in response to Scalo, and to prevent elected officials from voting raises for themselves, the legislature began rewriting this constitutional provision. And in 1981, they wrote the resolution, and in 1982, the public approved the amendment to the Constitution that I gave you. And that says, with the exception to the town meeting. But the town meeting is not the representative town meeting, because this report also includes the testimony from the senators who presented and voted on it, and most pertinent is one that explains the proposed amendment would not apply to elected officials in towns in which the legislative body is a town meeting, i.e. the citizens of the towns themselves do the voting. It is not a representative town meeting. And in fact, last week, we had the discussion where we had to approve the vote on the motor vehicle assessment. The law for that described it to any municipality by a vote of its legislative body, or in a municipality where the legislative body is a town meeting. And we had to do it because we were a representative town meeting. The exception was for town meetings, but you ruled that representative town meeting, there is a difference between the two. The constitutional amendment specified the difference throughout the statutes. I have lots of them where they differentiate between the two. Different authority is given to the different bodies. One is the elected body voting, and the other is citizens who meet in an auditorium in small towns and East Lawn.
Any other discussion? Attorney Kaplan.
I would suggest, I know folks are eager to see this implemented in July, if those who are interested and supportive of it. I would suggest that we'll take another look at our earlier advice to the standing committee and advise the RTM at the next meeting.
So the recommendation is to table to the next RTM meeting in June. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make that a motion.
There's a motion on the floor and seconded to table item number 5 till the June meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it. Thank you, Harry. Moving on to item 6. Consider an act on 3 appointments to the Waterford Utility Commission from the term 4/1/2025 to 3/31/2029. May I get a motion? Are there any nominations? Representative Driscoll.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to nominate Ray Valentini for reappointment to the Utility Commission.
Is there a second? Second?
Who's second?
Con. Are there any other Representative Jelinek?
I'd like to nominate Rodney Pinkham for reappointment.
Are there any other nominations? Second? Are there any other nominations? Representative Jelinek?
I'd like to nominate Tom Dembeck for reappointment.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor for Raymond Valentini for a Utility Commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? There's a motion on the floor for Rodney Pinkham. Again, motion on the next person is Rodney Pinkham. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? The ayes have it. And the last nominee for Utility Commission is Tom Dembeck. Again, the next nominee is Tom Dembeck. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any oppositions? Abstentions? One abstention. Okay, folks, next on the agenda is item I, new business. First thing is the thickest packet that I have, that I've ever seen since being moderator. This is it right here, it's very thick. It's from First Select Person Brule regarding the, information that Representative Driscoll was looking for, pertaining to revenue and finance, budget, and financial administration general. Ordinance 3.04.070, agreements with private organizations report. I'm gonna hand this over to Town Clerk Campo to have it scanned in from all the members of the RTM. I'm gonna recommend that it be reviewed, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, it was done back in 1998, and nothing has been really ever reviewed in the last 27 years, and there's some question as to what are the private organizations, how many they are, and what they should be, and it may be time to review that ordinance, and I want you all to have that information, lucky all of us, so that can be reviewed and potentially put into committee to be clarified. From what I understand from the town attorneys, there's some discussion as what is private, how many private organizations there are. It's something that would have to be reviewed, because it hasn't been done since 1998. So I wanted that out there for all of you, so you can peruse that information between now and June, and we can decide what you want to do with it then, because it's a lot of information. Representative Driscoll.
Thank you very much for getting my name right this time.
All you know.
I appreciate the 98 pages or whatever. It wasn't, I recognized that it hadn't been done since 1998. I had asked for copies of the contracts with private organizations, not knowing what all of them are, but knowing a few of them, because we always ask the same questions every budget season, and the answer is, well, that's our agreement or whatever. So this was good information for people to have, whether they read it or not, that's fine. The other part of that ordinance that the moderator was reading was that the ordinance states that the first selectman is supposed to set up a schedule with the moderator and routinely go over these on a regular schedule and explain them. That's a project for another day. I just wanted to see what we're getting. I appreciate that you worked so hard for 2 months since I asked for them to find these contracts, Nick. They're agreements, I know, they're not contracts, you corrected me. And I apologize to Town Clerk for having to stamp in so much. So, thank you for getting the information to us finally.
Folks, the other thing is, as you heard tonight, under public comment, we also received a letter from Waterford Little League regarding the Little League North complexes. I think it's something that we should put into one of two committees, probably the Public Health, Recreation, and Environment Committee, because it is a recreational issue for review. To possibly either have no action taken or possibly set up an ordinance based upon research done what's going on with the care of the fields, because it can be a liability issue as somebody who has volunteered in Little League and both in north and south, so I think it's something that should be reviewed. And I think it should go into the Public Health, Recreation, and Environment Committee, because that is recreational.
I'd like to make a motion that that item be placed into public health for review and possible action.
Second.
Is the second, Representative Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just have a question, and I'm totally for the special revenue fund, for anybody who's left in the audience, that's not my question. It's just, I don't recall us ever doing them. I've heard by sitting in on a few Board of Finance meetings that Board of Finance and the Finance Director make that kind of decision, so.
Yeah, that's out of the RTM.
So it's out of the RTM, yeah, I didn't think it was our authority.
Point of order.
We could always codify it after, but.
In the past, this body has taken action under when we formed the Waterford Week Committee, when they came under the umbrella of the town, it was an action of this committee to create a special revenue fund. So there is history there that this body has taken.
I think I agree. I think we're at a point, and I'm gonna use something based upon the swimming, but even though it's unrelated, it's way back when Dr. Collins was the superintendent, there was a possibility of turning the pool into an enterprise fund like they do over in East Lyme. So there seems to be some funding questions on how we're funding some of these recreational issues. Pool being one, as we heard tonight, this obviously in writing for Little League. So I think it's worth putting it into review to study to see if it needs to be codified, can be codified. And I think that's exactly why we have the committee. So I think it's worth, as you heard the public tonight, to at least put it in the committee to study. Representative, I'm
Again, I
sorry.
totally support the special revenue fund. I know it's atypical of me, but I was actually trying to not make work for the RTM.
Representative Monahan.
Through you, moderator. I wanted to ask the question earlier, we just kind of passed it by. This could fall into the stupid question category, but since I'm not knowledgeable about it, for me, it's a valid question. When there's a battle going on over legalities of the Constitution and how it's to be read, I understand pushing it off a month, but there isn't a way to take a vote and have it be contingent upon what the law turns out to be, whether it could be like we couldn't vote on that tonight and then find out, oh, we can't do that, or now that we can do that, put it into motion.
I think for future reference, there's always a way to possibly potentially amend something, but our legal opinion was to give them extra time to research it, and considering our legal folks are what defends whatever we decide to do, I think we should take it under advisement. And yes, in the future, you can ask to amend something, but in this case, the way we were advised, I think it was good that we tabled it.
I was way too unpopular to be called on then. I know you called on him next to it. Anyways, is that a possibility if I would have interjected prior to you making that suggestion of pushing it out a month? I'm just curious.
It is. It is. You could do that.
So this meeting is just about over. We can't take that vote because we're going backwards.
No,
You call on me next time. Thanks.
The thing of it is when you have it tabled, it's gonna be done in June, it wouldn't be effective until July anyway. So even if it was amended, it's not gonna go into effect until July, so they can do their review and report back to us, and I know a lot of the RTM members like to have that physical report in hand in front of all of us. So it could have been done either way, but I think to be consistent and thorough, it's probably the best way to do it based upon the legal opinion. That there is a motion on the floor to put the Waterford Little League complexes, how we pay for maintenance and upkeep into the Public Health, Recreation, and Environment Committee. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. Is there any other new business? Representative Khan.
I just want to make a comment, just because we did have a lot of swimmers, we have one left, and kind of to the group, there, sometimes it's, you come and make public comment, we're not allowed to respond, but under this, that is something that I think there's multiple members on this board that are inquiring and looking into the same thing, so I know, especially for me, I sometimes swim in the morning, not as dedicated, but I just wanted everybody out there to know that this body will take that item seriously. There's multiple members who've had conversations about that already.
Thank you.
Any other new business? Representative Campo, Town Clerk Campo, excuse me.
I've got your budgets packets in the back, along with some information from HR, so I wanna do this somewhat orderly as soon as we're done, so if we can just go by district, if I can just get District 1 back to the corner, I'll sign you out, you grab it, and then I'll yell out District 2, and we'll just go from there, okay? It won't take long, it'll take 5 minutes.
Motion to adjourn, please.
So